If you know anything about me, you'll know that I love anime and I love movies, both of which are featured behind me, so logically, I'd love anime movies. I watch a lot of anime movies, especially ones that are outside the popular sphere, since I feel like foreign films have such a different flair than the American ones that I'm used to. But with so many anime movies out there, I've watched some go completely under the radar and not get talked about at all, which is why in this video I'm going to share 5 amazing anime movies that I think you should watch. One thing I don't see a lot in anime movies, at least personally, are musicals, so I'll start out with one that totally defied my expectations, Belle. I saw this movie in theaters a couple years back and went in not expecting much aside from it just being an anime retelling of Beauty and the Beast with some really great animation. As I sat in the theater and watched the first song play out, I knew this was going to be something special. It was just so vibrant and fun and had some really catchy music. The movie follows Suzu, a high school girl who struggles to be her true self. That is until she logs into the virtual world U and becomes a completely different person, a world-famous singer named Belle. As the movie progresses, we get introduced to a beast known as Dragon, who's hated by most of the other online users, and together they form a relationship and try to just discover who they truly are. I'm gonna avoid any major story spoilers, but I will say that not only did this movie subvert my expectations, it was also a really interesting take on the Beauty and the Beast story by going in a direction that I didn't think it would. I'd also like to point out that this movie has a phenomenal English dub cast, and Kylie McNeil's singing voice sounds just like Kaho Nakamura, who voices Suzu in the Japanese dub. Overall, Belle is a modern, refreshing take on a classic fairy tale, and I think everyone should give it a shot, especially if you like musicals. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get this one out of the way since it's probably the most controversial one on this entire list. Sword Art Online is easily one of the most divisive anime out there. You either hate it, you're a closeted fan who says you hate it but you actually enjoy it, or you openly enjoy it, and despite all of the scorn and dirty looks you'll get, you don't really care. Now, I'm not going to comment on the absolute dumpster fire that is the anime, but rather the movie Sword Art Online Progressive Aria of a Starless Night. And yes, I know that's a mouthful, but you just gotta go with me here. I will never stop singing the praises of this movie because I feel like it just got overlooked by being something SAO related, and that hurts because this movie is so good. The premise of the movie is virtually the same as the anime, but here's the catch. Asuna's the protagonist now. SAO Progressive is based on the light novel of the same name, which is Reki Kawahara's attempt to go back and rewrite the Aincrad arc of SAO and flesh it out much more than it was originally. This fleshing out of the story and a focus on Asuna fixes a lot of the major issues people have with the SAO anime, which is awful pacing and poor character writing. In fact, the first hour-and-a-half long progressive movie focuses solely on the first floor of SAO. Yeah, that's it. Just that 2 years of them trying to get off the first floor, that's the first movie. We get to learn a lot more about Asuna, her motivations for playing the game, and seeing her work up to and earn that title of Lightning Flash that she just magically got in the anime. And yes, Kirito is still here, but now serving as more of a mentor figure to Asuna since he's a knowledgeable beta tester. He's also a weird, quirky teen trying to act cool in front of this girl that he likes, which helps him feel a lot more realistic and relatable than he was in the original anime. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the absolutely stunning animation done by A1 Pictures. Everything from backdrops, environments, and fights are just these visual feasts. Something I love that tends to go underappreciated in movies like this are the sound effects, and I would dare say that SAO has some of the best sound design in anime. SAO Progressive not only brings in the best of SAO, but fixes some of its worst pitfalls to make a truly enjoyable experience, and honestly, what the series should have been from the start. Say what you will about the anime, but I challenge you to leave those preconceived notions at the door and watch SAO Progressive with an open mind. You can also check out the second SAO Progressive movie, Scherzo of Deep Night, since it continues and builds on all of the great things that Aria of a Starless Night did. Both movies are available on Crunchyroll, so they're pretty easy to watch if you want to check them out. Okay, with that controversial pick out of the way, let's keep going. I spend a lot of time on the internet. Like, I'm chronically on Twitter and it's a problem, and I don't think I've seen a single soul aside from me talk about this next movie. The only reason I knew that it existed was because I just happened to be scrolling the Coming Soon tab on the Regal app and just happened to notice it there. Pompo the Cinephile is a movie about making movies, which as a film major, I really enjoyed. This movie follows Jean, a production assistant for Pompo, one of the biggest producers in Nollywood, which is the movie-making capital of this fictional world. Things take an interesting turn when Pompo hands Jean her latest script and makes him the director. Now, talk about a jump in the job chain. I wish that would happen to me. This is where the movie really starts to shine, as it dives into the creative process and just shows how much work actually goes into making a movie, especially from the director's point of view. So many artistic decisions were made to bring this movie to life and really sell the movie making process. My personal favorite is later on when he's editing it and it shows all of the reels being physically cut, and I feel that on a personal level. It also tackles the idea of what makes a masterpiece, which spoke to me not only as a film major but also as a creative person, because we spend so much time trying to perfect our project, but maybe we don't have to. There's not much for me to say other than it's a movie that the film bros and the casual moviegoers will both enjoy, which I know is such a rare sight, and I've never seen anyone talk about it ever. As far as I'm aware, the only official way to watch it is to either buy the Blu-ray or just rent it on Amazon, but honestly, it's worth either of those. This next segment is weird because it's a double pack of movies that I can't really say a ton about without spoiling it. To me, The One Who Loved You and To Every You I've Loved Before are some of the most creative films I've ever seen because they're sequels to each other. The knowledge you gain from one benefits you when you watch the other. Both movies focus on this idea of parallel worlds and our ability to travel between them, since for every choice we make, there's a different outcome, and honestly, I don't even want to think about how many different outcomes I've made with so many failed takes of this video alone. Both movies also heavily focus on romance, that being one of the major choices that our protagonist makes, and they both follow a different romantic pairing, but I won't spoil why that is. The concept is really cool, and I had a great time watching them, but as I said before, there's not much more I can say without giving too much away. There isn't really a set watch order, but as someone who's seen them both, I'd recommend starting with To Me, The One Who Loved You, aka the pink one, then watching To Every You I've Loved Before, aka the blue one. The pink one does a good job of establishing the concepts and helping you understand them, which will then be helpful when you go to watch the blue one. As far as I'm aware, the only official place to watch these movies is on Crunchyroll, but I promise that they are definitely worth checking out. Now, for the last movie on this list, I'm absolutely, certifiably, undeniably speaking from a place of personal bias, but I do think it's an underrated movie that has not gotten enough attention. If you've followed me or watched any of my content for any amount of time, it's no secret that Weathering With You is not only my favorite movie of all time, but Makoto Shinkai is my favorite director. I think the biggest reason Weathering With You has gone somewhat unnoticed is because of a comparison game with its big brother, Your Name. Don't get me wrong, Your Name is an amazing film, but now everyone compares Shinkai's newer films to it, which hinders their capability to stand on their own. I watched this happen last year with Suzume because every single review was, how does this compare to Your Name? Which, one, isn't fair to Suzume or Your Name since they are both standalone films that are trying to do their own thing, and two, they all act like Weathering With You doesn't exist. That being said, while Weathering With You is my personal favorite Shinkai film, I can acknowledge that it isn't perfect and does have its fair share of flaws. Despite those flaws though, Weathering With You is still a really solid movie with the trademark gorgeous animation, grounded but yet supernatural story, and lovable characters that you've come to expect from a Makoto Shinkai film. We also can't forget to shout out Radwimps, who is doing the Lord's work by putting out a killer soundtrack for this movie, which I can't play for you because I want to actually be able to feed my editor this month. If for some reason you loved Your Name but have skipped out on Weathering With You, don't worry, I'll forgive you just this once. But correct your mistake by going and watching it now, because it's unfair to deprive yourself of peak fiction. Alright, those are 5, well, 6 or 7, depending on how you want to count it, great anime movies that I think you should watch, and if you've seen these movies or I've missed any, feel free to let me know in the comments because I always love hearing what you guys have to say. And of course, if you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the great stuff I have coming down the pipeline. Now, if you're looking for something else to watch, you can check out one of the 2 videos on screen, one being my review of the Hashira training arc and how I perfected anime filler, or this other one that the YouTube algorithm thinks you'll like more.